Oh. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Narayana. Hari Om and good evening from Niagara Falls. If you ever send an important package or an important letter to someone, then you track that package. And if it's really important, then you'll have someone sign to receive that. And if it's even more important, only the receiver can sign for that package. And if those parts aren't in place, then that package is not delivered. The receiver has to be ready for that package. Freedom is the same way. Moksha. If a seeker is not ready, and this readiness is not a casual readiness, a perpetual readiness, like Shabariji. Every moment, all we think about, all we speak about, all we act for is freedom. Only then will freedom be delivered to us, will we be delivered. Without this readiness, these will just be words. Maybe these will just be ideas. But that freedom will not be an experience. We will not feel this. Our Bhagavad Gita course is encouraging us, training us to develop ananya. Ananya means no other. Ananya means a single purpose, and that is freedom. I was recently sharing, I believe in Cleveland, that the only purpose of Chinmaya mission, every activity, any activity of Chinmaya mission, is moksha. When we engage in our Chinmaya mission activities, do we understand this purpose? When we study in our Bhagavad Gita course, do we understand this purpose? We are trying to know Bhagavan. We are trying to know God. And the more that we know Bhagavan, our Creator, the more we will love our original parent. We will love Brahman. We will only want to be with God. We will only want to live a divine life. Reviewing the end of chapter 13. The BBC has created a really great show called Sherlock. I'm sure many of you have seen this show. And at the end of season 2, Sherlock has to fake his death. And he has to fake his death to be able to accomplish much grander work, deeper penetration of wrongdoing in the world. And lots of people know about this, but not Watson. Watson is not privy to this detail that Sherlock is not dead. And after some time, Sherlock comes back and Watson is most upset that you didn't tell me that you were still alive. And I tried to carry on and on and on and on. And Sherlock tries to explain to Watson why he didn't tell him, because he wouldn't understand. Watson couldn't think so big like Sherlock. So you should watch shows and listen to music and wash dishes, always trying to make the connection to Vedanta. So now you're all waiting, okay, so how does this fit into chapter 13? Bhagavan Krishna is telling Prince Arjuna that you have to live this knowledge. The live here is the asi part. He's trying to make Prince Arjuna see the big picture, that it's not about Prince Arjuna nor about Bhagavan Krishna. It's about this oneness. And he shares with Prince Arjuna rungs to reach this living, this experienced knowledge. He says the best students live this knowledge through determination. That is, they hear this knowledge and immediately they feel this knowledge. They're ready. The not best student, and it goes down, and not so much vertically, but there's some lateral movement also. Don't take this to be a pyramid so much. Is one who doesn't live this knowledge through determination, but through meditation. That is, they have to internalize this knowledge more, and then they feel it. The best student, just through Shavana. The not best student has to go through Manana and Nididhyasana also. Another type of student lives this knowledge through discrimination. Discrimination. This is where they need more insight of how this knowledge is real and personal. Real and personal. Then they meditate on this knowledge and finally they feel it. So one student just Shravana, another student just Shravana and Nididhyasana, another student Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. Another student, it is through Shraddha or faith that their guru teaches. Then they meditate on this and then they feel this knowledge. Another student, it is through dedication that they follow their dharma. This prepares them for the knowledge and then they feel this knowledge. And finally is devotion. And devotion is where a student is prepared and then they feel this knowledge. Determination, meditation, discrimination, faith, dedication, devotion, all of these are ways for one to live this knowledge. And this knowledge in very simple terms is Vinashyatsu avinashyantam. Within the perishing, there is the imperishing. Within the relative, there is the absolute. See that. This is how chapter 13 is completed, where Bhagavan says the only one who sees is the one who sees deeper than the body, mind, intellect. Deeper than creation. And connecting this to the first two portions of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Tvam and Tat, that is Prince Arjuna and Bhagavan Krishna, both have upadhis. They both have limitations of a form and name. Prince Arjuna has major limitations, Bhagavan Krishna has more transactional limitations. But when you remove those limitations, those forms and names, what remains? Just Brahman. The Tvam and the Tat are the same when we go deeper, past any sort of expression. Asi. The seed for Asi is presented in chapter 13, and now there's many more chapters to elaborate on that. This is clear to everyone. Yes? Okay. I think Bhagavan Krishna felt how perplexed Prince Arjuna was with chapter 13. So he shares a relatively simpler chapter next. And this is a most practical and pragmatic in the sense, systematic chapter for one to study. The more aware you are of anything, the more you can adapt to that. True? For those people who are on different types of visas while they're living or working in the States, if you know that certain policies are going to change, you're aware of that, you adapt. You don't leave the country, or you do leave the country. But if you're not aware of these changing policies, your visa may be in jeopardy. Someone may not be able to come into the country, correct? So this applies with a secular field. In a sacred field, this is even more important. Between Brahman and the body is the mind. Brahman is up here, the body is down here. What is making Brahman feel that it is a body? What is stopping the body from feeling it is Brahman? Is the mind. And this mind, as we've studied, is just material. Just materials. In Sanskrit, we call this Mahat Brahma. Materials almost in a engineering sense. This pen has a certain flexibility. It has a certain burning point. This glass a different one. This table a different one. My coat a different one. They're all materials. And the mind is also materials. And this mind is made up of materials that have a certain characteristic. Orange juice, milk, alcohol, they all have different boiling points. The materials of the mind have different characteristics. And the more we are aware of this, the more we can adapt, the more we can try to unite the body with Brahman. Now you know where I'm going with, where I'm taking this introduction to this chapter. Before I do, begin focusing on what the focus of this chapter is. One of the thoughts that we tend to have is called sukha vritti. Vritti means thoughts or thought, and sukha means of rest, of peace. But it's still a thought. Like satsang. If you're enjoying the thought of satsang, that thought came in and that thought is going to go. It's still a thought. Shared differently, like a shastra vasana, correct? Some people enjoy the thoughts that come with studying the scriptures, but they're enjoying the thoughts. We have to go deeper than this sukha vritti to sukha swarupa. That I'm not enjoying the thought of satsang, I'm not enjoying the thought of studying the scriptures. I am enjoyment. I am happiness. I'm sharing this because if we don't know this difference, we will get attached to that sukha vritti and we will be confused that now I'm enlightened when I'm not. I will be stuck just in a different way. These are golden chains instead of steel chains. So as Bhagavan Krishna is beginning this teaching, he's teaching us to be aware of the difference between the body and mind, fine, and the mind and Brahman also. A quiet mind is not Brahman. So what are the characteristics of these materials? The first characteristic is known as sattva. Sattva is calmness. So the materials in the mind, one characteristic is of calmness. And this is associated with the color white. Then another characteristic is rajas. And this is aggressiveness. And this is associated with red, like a bull. When a bull sees that red, there's aggression. And finally, there's tamas. Tamas is laziness. And this is associated with black. So the materials that make up the mind are always of these three characteristics. And this is where Bhagavan Krishna says, I am sharing the Varna system. Varna means color, isn't it? Sometimes I'm more of this color and less of this color, but it's not my skin color. It is the color of the mind. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. These characteristics of these materials, all of these are the same divinity, but different levels of expression that manifest. Same divinity, but with tamas, there's less manifestation. With sattva, there's more manifestation. And taking this to embodiments, a stone and a plant tend to be known as tamasic. They are infinite. They are divine, but cannot express any ananda, very little chit, and only sat. Yes? Animals are more rajasic. Same divinity, Satchidananda, but they can express more. There's more awareness. There's more joy. And humans, and this is just Bhagavan being kind to us, are more sattvic. And I think Bhagavan is saying this because we have the potential to express. Whether we do express is different, but we certainly have more potential to express this divinity than an animal, than a plant, than a stone. And even within a human, these characteristics, the body is more tamasic. This body does not express awareness or joy. The senses are more rajasic, more aggressive. And the mind is more sattvic, expresses sat for sure, and awareness, and joy. So humans are sattvic. Within a human, the mind is sattvic. Sattva is that which is like sat, like Satchidananda, divine. The mind that is more sattvic has different degrees of sattva. A mind that is sattvic but still dominated by tamas is suffering from avarana. Varana means to describe. Avarana means cannot describe. Because that mind is dark. A mind that is dominated by rajas is engaged in vikshepa. Vikshepa means to project. I don't know, so I think about this and this and this. And a mind that is dominated by sattva is engaged in viveka. Viveka means to analyze, to filter, to try to understand what actually is. Humans are sattvic. The mind is sattvic. But within a sattvic mind, there's a mind that is sattvic but more tamasic, more rajasic, more sattvic. So sattvic, sattvic. Such minds, when they are engaged in a action, a tamasic mind is disengaged. They're always bored. A rajasic mind is distracted, and a sattvic mind is focused. We are trying to be aware of the mind so we can adapt, so we can do more with the mind. So if I know my mind is distracted, rajas. If I'm just disinterested, tamas. If I'm focused, sattvic. That is with what I'm doing. Now, when it comes to being with people, we're going deeper and deeper. When it comes to being with people, a tamasic mind ignores people. Not in a positive way, in a negative way, that, who are you? I don't care. Not saying hello, not acknowledging another person. A rajasic mind is prejudiced. Even before getting to know that person, they're already projecting this person is like this. I don't know them, but they look like this. prejudging. They're prejudiced. And a sattvic mind is one that follows sthane. They try to understand a person as they are. They are accepting that all is as all is. This person is this person. Finished. There's a really great Depeche Mode song called People Are People. Right? People are people, accept. So the different minds with work, the different minds with people, now in a more comprehensive sense. A tamasic mind follows low living, low thinking. Low living, low thinking. They live in a low way, dirty, lazy, and low thinking, complacent, not trying to grow. Low living, low thinking. A rajasic mind is engaged in high living, low thinking. High living, low thinking. They're ambitious. They compete, so their living is high. They may have a lot of materials. They may be well known, but their thinking is low. They're restless. There's no ease for them. So tamasic, low living, low thinking. Rajasic, high living, low thinking. And a sattvic mind can be in low living or high living, but is definitely in high thinking. So the better way to understand this is high living, high thinking. They're living in a beautiful way, and they're thinking about it accordingly. And this is important for all of us who are engaged in service or careers, that you have cars, we have Wi-Fi, we take vacations, and on and on and on. This is all high living. If it's matched with high thinking, then the living is irrelevant. You can live as a king, or you can live as the servant of a king. It is not important. It is the thinking that's important. So the tamasic person is low thinking, the rajasic person is still low thinking, but it's the sattvic person who brings in that high thinking. A shloka to highlight from chapter 14 is shloka number 18. The way we think is not just going to determine how we are today, but also tomorrow, and the next lifetime, and the lifetime after that. 18. Urdhvam gacchanti sattvastaha madhye tishtanti rajasaha jaganya gunavrittistaha ado gacchanti tamasaha. Bhagavan says, Urdhvam, going up, gacchanti. One will move up, sattvastaha. The one who has high thinking will naturally move higher, they will evolve. Madhye tishtanti rajasaha, one who is engaged in low thinking or middle thinking. Tishtanti, that person will stand or stay in the middle. They will not evolve, they will not devolve. Jaganya guna vrittistaha, but the one who is engaged in the lowest type of guna, adhaha, going down, gacchanti tamasaha, one who's engaged in fully low thinking, that person is going to be in a lower manifestation or embodiment in their next lifetime. I'll repeat. Today, if I'm engaged in high thinking, I will be born as a more evolved human, or I'll be enlightened. Today, if I'm engaged in aggressiveness, I will be born as a sane human next lifetime. There's lateral movement. Today, if I'm engaged in low thinking, tamas, darkness, then I will devolve into a worse human being, or even go into the next species as an animal. So in 14.1 to 14.5, what Bhagavan is teaching is to be very, very, very aware of the materials, that is the mind, the characteristics of these materials, and how this is affecting us right now and tomorrow. 14.6 to 14.10. If awareness is the first step to any solution, what's the next step? The next step is to change then, no? Now that I'm aware of that solution, I should change. Changing the characteristics, that is the materials, that is the mind. How do I change these characteristics? Tamas, Rajas, Sattva. And Bhagavan says in this chapter, one strategy is to be alert. The more alert I am, the more I know the characteristics, the more I know the materials, and I can move them around then, right? Like a chess player, the more alert they are of the pieces on their table or the other person they're playing with, the more alert they are, they can strategize, they can win. Another technique is analysis. You should analyze how these characteristics move in and out based on an environment. So, you're with friend X, and your mind is agitated because of friend X. If you're analyzing this, you will realize that there's something about them that agitates you, and with full analysis, it's not them, it's you. It's how you are with them. My younger sister was just here with her daughter Misha, and Misha is a month younger than Vyasa. And what my younger sister has found out is that Misha is allergic to kiwi. So you see, that's an analysis. You give a little bit of peanut butter, you give a little bit of dairy, you give a little bit of strawberries, blueberries. And in this analysis, you realize what do they like, what's good for them, what does not suit their body. To do the same with oneself, with the mind. Another strategy is input. If one wants to change, whatever is being inputted will also be outputted. In accounting, we call this first in, first out, or last in, first out, correct? Whatever's going in is going to come out. So we should be careful that if I want to change the characteristics of the materials, what is going in? Another strategy is observing. Observing. The more I observe people who have changed, they went from tamasic to rajasic or rajasic to sattvic, the more I observe them, the more I find ways that I can change too. For all of us, role modeling is an imperative way for us to become free of any attachment. If we're all role models to each other and all of us are attached, are we ever going to become detached? But if you have a role model who's free, a role model who goes with the flow, then I start to invoke the same. Now that I'm aware of the characteristics of the materials, I want to change these characteristics through alertness, analysis, input, observing. The next is substitution. Substitution. Can you go from tamas to sattva? Can you go from rung 1 to rung 3? You can externally, but internally one cannot. You cannot force unfoldment. Substitution means that if I'm a tamasic person, I'm lazy, I should bring in rajas or become aggressive. That's better. Then obviously we don't want to stay there. So rajas blending into sattva is called malina sattva. Malina means mixed or impure sattva. Half rajas, half sattva. You have to purify that more. It's called shuddha sattva. Almost 1/3 rajas, 2/3 sattva. And then you have to go even more deep into this. It's called vishuddha sattva, which is 100% sattva. At that point, you've created so much momentum in the characteristics of the materials that momentum will make you enlightened. You are Sat at that point. And the last way to change the characteristics of the materials is disciplines, or in Sanskrit, sadhanas. The more early you wake up in the morning, the more sattvic you become. The less you demand or impose likes and dislikes with food, the more sattvic you become. And on and on and on. Change. Now, if you study science or psychology, then this chapter is over. This is how my mind was, and now I've changed it. But this is religion. This is Brahma Vidya. It's not enough to purify the mind and stay in the mind. The third part that this chapter focuses on is transcending the mind. If the mind is stopping me from knowing Brahman, naturally I have to transcend the mind to be Brahman, to be the light that illuminates those thoughts, to transcend. The articles, beings, and circumstances, everything you're looking at right now, articles, your computer, your hand, the beings, the people in the class, me, circumstances, the weather outside, the time right now, that outer world is made up of materials just like vrittis are. A tamasic thought, a rajasic thought, a sattvic thought, this outer material and inner material, they're always trying to come together and they get attached. That's why I said at the beginning of the chapter, be careful not to get lost in sukha vritti. My inner world is trying to find its place in the outer world, and then there's an attachment that takes place. I get stuck. But it's not enough for this mind to just be changed. You have to go deeper than the mind. You have to transcend the mind where there's no outer world and inner world that I'm trying to find peace through. Because peace is not in the outer world. Peace is not in the inner world. Peace is not a world. Peace is your swarupa. To go deeper. Here's where chapter 13 becomes more relevant, where we've studied the difference between the knower and the known. The only way to transcend the mind is if you are fully aware that the mind, the materials, the characteristics are all known, and the knower is different than the known. And one who is fully aware of this, that person is labeled, is understood as gunatita. Gunatita means one who is bigger, one who has transcended these gunas, the characteristics, the robes. In chapter 14, there's a portion called Gunatita Lakshana. In chapter 2, what was this called? Sthita Prajna Lakshana. The indicators, the signs of someone whose wisdom is firm. In chapter 14, what Bhagavan shares is the signs of one who is not subject to any of these characteristics. Gunatita Lakshana. The shloka, this is the second shloka I'd like to highlight in this chapter. This is shloka 23, 18 and 23. Udasina vadasinaha guneryo na vichalyate guna vartanta ityeva yo vatishtati nengate. Bhagavan says, Udasina vat, like one who is sitting above. Udasina doesn't mean sad. It means one who is bigger, higher. Asinaha, sitting. So like one who is sitting in a way that they're not subject to any guna, to any limitation. Gunaihi yaha na vichalyate. Such a person is not shaken, na vichalyate, is not imbalanced by these gunas. Whether it's tamas or sattva. Please think deeply about the sattvic vritti, the sattvic guna too. That's not good enough to just be that. Guna vartanta ityeva. These gunas that are constantly moving around. There are 3 gunas. We're dominantly one of them, but the other 2 are there too. When we sleep, tamasic. When we're awake, sattvic, etc., etc. Yo avatishtati na ingate. One who is avatishtati, one who is centered, one who is balanced, that person is not moved, ingate, na ingate, by this change, by this fear of change. One characteristic that is highlighted in the gunatita lakshanas, one who has transcended these characteristics does not try to change any article, any being, or any circumstance. Think about that. We are perpetually engaged in trying to change articles, circumstances, and mostly beings, mostly our friends, even more so our family. But one who is deeper than the mind, they also know another person is deeper than the mind. They become fully accepting. And even if they try to change someone, it's to help them, but they're not dependent on them changing. Think, parents, if you could be free of wanting the best for your children, but not being subject to them not being the best, or them not living up to their potential. What freedom one would experience. This is a great chapter to study on beginning self-development, because it focuses on what's stopping us from self-development. And one last thought from chapter 14 that's related to the ending of Kishkinda Kanda of Ramayana. After the rainy season is complete, Sugriva goes to meet Bhagwan Rama. And Bhagwan Rama politely is asking him, how come you didn't come and meet me? How come I had to remind you to follow through with the pact that I helped you with your affairs, you have to help me with my affairs? And Sugriva says, Bhagwan, it's your fault. It's your fault that I was being irresponsible. And Sugriva says, it's because of your Maya that I was trapped. How am I supposed to be free of your Maya when I'm a monkey? I'm an ordinary seeker. And you are the Mayapati. Sugriva says, and Sugriva is symbolic of the intellect. He says, it's only when my efforts are blessed by your grace that one can be free of Maya. So my efforts plus me putting out efforts and you putting in grace, that's the only way one can be free of Maya. And so here in chapter 14, it's very much about putting in effort. But Bhagwan does end this chapter saying, you can try all of this, or you can try being in love with me. And you being in love with me, you can also experience whatever you wouldn't experience through your own efforts. You know why Bhagwan makes this statement? Again, going back to Ramayana, our efforts are not enough. We cannot just take up Bhagavad Gita or just take up jnana to be ready for moksha. We've tried. We're still trying. We've been studying for 1.5 years. Without bhakti, that is depending on Bhagwan, without surrender, this is impossible. Bhagavad Gita is almost like chutney. It's almost like achar. In the sense that, we like it because it tastes good, but you can't live on this. You need Ramayana. You need Srimad Bhagavatam. I've been doing this for 12 years, and every day this becomes more clear to me that without Bhagwan's Kripa, I can try 110 hours a week instead of 100, and still I will go nowhere. Someone will still shake me. So Bhagwan keeps on sharing with Prince Arjuna in the most obvious way that just love me. Oh.